Well, hello and welcome back to my YouTube account. James here as ever for more ACCA exam tips to help you out with your upcoming examination. The channel is 100% student-led, and today's question has come in from one of my followers on Instagram, and they are asking, well, James, I've got to work the day before my ACCA exam. What are the best tips that you can give me to actually get the most out of that day? How can I be most productive? So, more than happy to oblige, and we're going to go through, as ever, 5 key areas that I think are really going to help you out. And you may be watching this, you might actually have to do that working day tomorrow and then do your exam, and trust me, I've been there. When I was at university, I had 3 exams in 3 days, all 9 AM starts, and then when I went on to do the professional exams, it was one after the other. And I can tell you now, that train journey on the way back, falling asleep on that was not ideal. But I have to give a shout out as well to Tawane. I know you'll be watching out there. Thank you very much for your message. And this will apply to you when you actually start your graduate role as well. So best of luck with that. But we've got to get on to the 5 key areas that are going to help you out. And again, just to reiterate, this is you've got to work the day before your ACCA exam, how you're going to get the most out of it, to be the most productive, and to maximize your revision. So, I think we're going to have to come on to it. Let's move on. Let's get on with it. Tip number 1. First of all, and this is underrated from a student's point of view, and also if you're in that working environment as well, but the main tip, number 1, is speak to your employer or your training supervisor as well. So the person who is in charge to look after you when you're actually studying. The reason why I say this is I get so many messages from students and people who leave comments in the videos such as these to say, well, oh gosh, I've only been here for a few months now. Can I really go and ask that? Well, don't be afraid to. Remember, if you never try, you never know on these sort of things. And it's a case of, well, I'd rather go and ask the employer to say, look, I've got an exam coming up. Can I reschedule some things around, or what can we work out? Rather than just sort of, oh gosh, just get on with it and just see what happens. Well, that is completely up to you, but I would highly recommend it. It's a case of it's going to build up your repertoire between your employer and yourself. You're going to have that honest relationship. And like I said, if you never try, you never know. But it's okay. I'm not going to start singing Coldplay to you or anything like that if anyone's a Fix You fan out there. But yes, it's going to be a case of can you rearrange or reschedule? Can we move things around in the week? This is, remember, something that you can control because you are taking the initiative. You're trying to actually reach out and speak to that person because at the end of the day, it's a balance for them as well. You are working for them, so they want the most out of you and they want you to pass the exams. That is another key factor. But the main thing here, and another tip which is really underrated, and I must point this out, is if it doesn't actually happen, okay, and they say, look, I'm really sorry, James, you've got to go and do your normal day's work, and then also you've got to actually go and do your exam the next day. Just don't get frustrated, don't get angry. I used to do it myself, and I know other people who are studying going, oh, so-and-so at the other place got this, and so-and-so also did that, and before you know it, your actual mind isn't focused on what you can control, and what you can control is how you react to putting in the revision hours and making the best of the circumstances that you have. Don't worry about what other people are thinking about in terms of their preparation. You're the person that's going to be sitting your exam. You're in the hot seat. That is the main thing. By doing this, you can have a much better and focused mindset, and having that positivity about you is going to say to yourself, well, I'm taking on board, I've got to work these hours, I've got to fulfill my requirements, they are paying for me as well, and they pay my wage, and you've got to build up that belief that you can still do this. It's an inconvenience having to work the day before, but you can still do this, and changing that positive mindset is going to increase the amount of revision, put you in a better mindset going into the exam, and also you're going to perform better as well. So that is fundamental. Tip number 1, speak to your employer, speak to your training supervisor, and also work on that mindset regardless of the outcome. Don't be afraid to try it. So that is fundamental for me, first of all, and I wish I'd done more of that as a student. Secondly, okay, and this is probably not going to be the most popular one because I know some people like to sleep in, some people like to get up early. But for this case, number 2, wake up early. It is just your exam. It is only one day of the year, and you've got that working day beforehand. So you've got to maximize the number of hours that you're awake in that day and to get as many hours in. The reason why I say to get up early and to maximize those hours is because you can maybe fit in 1 to 2 hours potentially before work, before the actual working day starts for you. Okay, so you're going to actually have this written down as well. So I'd recommend that if you are going to get up early, write it down in your plan the night before. So if you're going to set your alarm for 6 a.m., put it on the list. 6 a.m. alarm goes off. 6:05, up and out of bed. Write down that plan so that mentally you remember this, and because you're focused on it and you have that mindset because you've written it down and you can see that target you want to hit, I bet people watching this and you watching this will go, I'll set that alarm, and you'll even wake up before it as well. Trust me on it. That is going to be massive for you. The other thing is, put that in your work calendar so that it is structured throughout the day and you're going to follow that routine. So in the workday, you're going to get up earlier than normal, and this may also be the same time you're going to get up on the exam day as well. This is going to take a bit out of you, but it is going to be worth it in the long run because you've got to hold yourself accountable and it is going to be worth it. So these are the things where, well, what are you going to do in that first bit of the day? Well, as ever, for people who have watched my channel before, you've got to think first thing in the morning, you've got the most amount of energy. I've not looked at my phone. I'm not interested in social media. I've got other plans and other targets in mind. So I'm going to crack on and get on with a past paper examination question. I can do it to time. I can get a coffee on with my breakfast and focus on the task in hand. And that'll be a big tick so that I've got something out the way and it's going to be relating that I think is going to come up on the exam. So have a look at some past papers, see what's come up in the external examiner's report that is more than likely to come up, and you are going to be getting up early to get that in the bag before you start work, and it's going to be that bit of a motivation to say, yes, I've already got maybe 1-2 past paper questions in the bag before I've even looked at my work emails. And that is another key factor of don't look at your social media, don't look at your work emails because your mind's going to start wandering and thinking about other things. Focus on getting those couple of questions in the bank and it will pay dividends for you. Trust me on it. Even if you don't like waking up early, if you see a 50 plus on your final mark, you'll look back on that early morning and going, it was worth it. I can live with that 6 a.m. 5:30 start. So that is tip number 2. Wake up early, whether you like it or not. Trust me, it is going to benefit you. So, now we're going to be thinking about you're going to get into your actual working day now. So, you've got to be thinking, well, what requirements have I got? So, third point, and goes underrated as well on this, in terms of organising your time. So I can hear you saying to me, James, of course I can organise time, 24 hours in the day, and it sort of floats by as normal. But first of all, you've got to think to yourself, well, if I'm working on that day, can I give myself a slightly easier day in terms of it? Can I actually control what I actually have to do in terms of my workflow? Now, I understand that people, or you listening to this, will go, well, James, I'm an auditor and I've got to travel that day. Okay, well, maybe in the car when you're traveling to the audit site, you can listen to something on a podcast or speak to a colleague about it. But there are you may be listening and saying, well, I've got other forms of work that I can actually control in terms of, well, I've got difficult bits and some more sort of admin-y tasks. Well, maybe think about getting those difficult tasks done in the morning as well, giving yourself an easier afternoon. Still completing it, but getting the harder things done in the morning. The reason why I say this is it falls under so many traps, working in practice, working in industry, that the longer the day goes on, the more these tasks start to build up. And what you don't want to be doing is eating into potential revision time later on in the day. Get the task that you least want to do earlier on, and that is going to pay dividends for you as well. The next thing coming into this is as well, you're going to have probably a lunch break, so this depends if you're actually going into the office or not. So try to factor in that lunch hour or 45 minutes what you've got, pre-prepare a question that you can do then as well. So come pre-prepared with some lunch, nice and easy, and flick through something, keep yourself active throughout the day, going back to those notes as well. That is really going to help factor this in. Have it blocked out in your calendar as well, that 45 minutes or an hour for lunch. So it's a case of You're not going to be still sat at your computer typing away. This is your time, and it is going to hopefully build up those extra little mark here, little mark there, and that could be the tipping point to get you over the 50 plus, and that is what we're hoping for from this. The only final thing on here is from structuring your week. So we're talking about the working day before the exam the next day, but maybe you can actually rearrange some work so that what you're doing on the actual day before the exam actually relates to your exam. So potentially you've got a tax exam coming up on Friday. So the Thursday at work, potentially you could do some some tax computations, limited company accounts, look at some legislation and some research, use it to your advantage. But again, it comes down to, have you got control and looking after yourself in this manner as well. You can factor in, well, what am I going to be doing for this day? This is the reason why, if you fail to prepare, you've got to prepare yourself to fail. And by preparing in this day, we are adding value in various different areas that are hopefully going to accumulate to those little marks here and there. Could take you over that 50 threshold. So that is number 3. Organise your time for the day and block out the chunks. Hold yourself accountable and follow through on, that is the day that I'm going to have, because that is the day that I want, and it's going to maximise the amount of revision I can do and complete my work obligations. Spot on, ticks all the boxes as well. Lovely stuff. So that is, we've now completed the full working day. We've gone through it, ticked off everything. So coming on to point 4 now, this is the after work session. So after work, you're finished, that last task is done. So what I'd recommend first of all is actually just, you got to leave your laptop where you've been sat all day, pop off out the room and just go for a walk and clear your mind. So maybe put on some music or call a friend or something on those lines, just to switch it completely up, so that you flick the switch and then you go, well, I've gone from work mode from my day job, now I'm going into actual study mode. So that is the first key tip here with the after work session. Tip number 2 as well is turn off your work emails and your social media. The reason for this is, and I used to get in the habit of this the bad habit, shall I say, of this all the time, of just checking your phone, and if it pings or buzzes, or if you've still left that work email open, so tempted just to say, oh, it'll only be a minute, it'll just be a minute. Well, that minute actually interrupts your studying time and your actual focus as well, when maybe you're potentially going through an actual past paper question or focusing on a certain requirement as well. So that is tip number 2 for the after work session, of turn off that social media, turn off the buzz and the pings, and no more work emails. This is time for you now as well. So the next thing is, once you come back from your walk, you've got to assess how tired you are, okay? But the main thing here is, this is not an excuse to sit down, procrastinate, sit on a sofa and watch TV, okay? What I mean by assess how tired you are, I know you've been at work all day and you may have had a previous couple of hard days before that. It all depends on different scenarios to you listening. You've got to work out how tired you are and then factor in what revision session is going to be best for you in the actual after work. So if you feel like you've got a bit of abundant energy, then maybe some short and sweet 10 to 15 mark questions can actually really work for you. Maybe do a couple at a time. Remember, it's going to be 1.8 minutes per mark. So a 10 mark question is going to be 18 minutes. So if you think, yes, I can do that. And also, I'd say go away and actually put some music on as well, because you've been focusing all day actually at work, having a bit of motivational music on. Oh gosh, you can tell I'm not very good at singing. But that'll be a case of, well, that is going to make a massive difference to you, that I'd rather have you with some music on and getting those 18 minutes in, rather than actually, sort of daydreaming, looking around. I know, I used to do it as well, but this is where it comes down to what works best for you based on how your day has been and how you're feeling. But so it's not used as an excuse. The way to get around this, and also to get your mind back into focus, and again, try this as a tip. It's not one sort of you see in you'll see on the ACCA website, but just close your eyes if you sat there at your actual desk the night before, and just think to yourself, opening that ACCA email or getting that text and receiving a 48 or a 49. and thinking to yourself, if I'd have just done that little bit more and found that little extra point, or got that one other method mark, or just used my own figure one more time, that could have tipped me over the edge. And actually, think of the frustration on that. And before you know it, you flick that switch again, you're back on, you're focused, along with your playlist. Go for it. If it's going to help, pop it on. I'm not going to embarrass myself on this video as to who you may want to listen to, but we'll go for a classic all round of pop on some Queen or some ABBA, something on those lines. You can't go wrong, I'm sure. But the other thing now is, it's the first session after work, so you've got to be having a go at or a punt or what you think is going to come up. Time is of the essence. You've really got to have read those external examiners' reports. This isn't a case of, this is a video of, oh yeah, these are the things which are going to help me pass regardless. I'm expecting that you've done things weeks in advance, and this is just going to be those little extra few marks that are going to get you over the 50 plus. So make sure at this point in the day you are only focusing on things that the external examiners report, and from your interaction with your tutor and your revision strategy, what you think is going to come up. That is paramount here. So that is tip number 4, the after work session. That is going to be fundamental for you. So now, coming on later into the evening, and again from that early morning wake up, full day of work, we've had a little after work session now. Tip number 5, and this is where it's going to get into those long, painful hours into the evening. So get yourself some tea on as well, have some dinner, but an interactive evening would be my tip number 5. So we're thinking about what is going to be on the exam tomorrow and plan for it accordingly, and also how you're going to get there as well. So I've used on other videos as well an actual bullet point strategy where literally writing down just one by one, and obviously we're fully prepared on the channel as ever. That here is the sheet, it's usually down there, but this was always my strategy. If you can see it, hopefully you can, as we gaze across. What didn't I know? So simply bullet pointing down areas that you think are going to be fundamental, that you just need a little recap the next day. Read them just off the cuff and just go, yes, I get that a bit more now, And before you know it, this is going to add so much value to your revision session. Underrated tool, and again, it fits in with the zero budget of the channel of a bit of paper and some bullet points as well. But trust me, it is going to help you. Give it a go. Don't knock it until you've tried it. So we've talked about the bullet points on there. Flashcards as well. These can be brought to the actual exam the next day. These are really short and sweet notes that I'd make sure I'd be reading through, trying to be interactive, actually saying them to a family member as well, someone in the household, or getting on the phone to your study buddy so that you can actually interact with them on FaceTime and ping some questions to one another. Something it's got to be interactive because your energy levels are going to be dipping off. There's going to be temptation to sit on that sofa or to play on your phone and look at Facebook or Instagram or something on those lines, or even just to sort of sit there and go, can't do any more. Wow. That comes back to that mindset of, well, thinking about just that little extra, finding those 1 or 2 marks could be the difference between me having to resit in the next period or not. Whether it's just recording yourself, doing a little bit of interactive sessions, this is going to be the main thing that you can just plan, visualize, and even just pack for the next day so that you are fully prepared, ready to go, and it's going to lower those stress levels, reduce that anxiety because you're going to be slightly worked up after a full day at work, preparing for ACCA exam the next day, and going into it hopefully now full of confidence that you've gone through these points, you've had the most productive day possible. That is the whole point of this video, that you can look back, you can look in the mirror and look at yourself and say, I've done absolutely all I possibly can with the available time. I've squeezed out every single minute that I could actually revise here. I've got everything prepared for tomorrow. I know I'm going to get there. I know I'm going to look through my notes or listen to something on the way, and I'm going to give it my absolute all going into it. So that is tip number 5, interactive evening session to finish off your day, and obviously early to bed so you get a good night's rest. Up tomorrow, don't miss that alarm, and you'll be fine, all good to go. Trust me, those points could be the difference, just those little mark there, another mark here, another mark there, and that just pushes you into that next little boundary of 50 plus. We don't talk about 48 or 49, even worse on the channel. And final point, breathe. That is the next thing. If you're ever getting worked up, have a breather. That is another key thing. Pop that on the end of the list. Obviously, I said 5 points. We've found a sixth one at the bottom. But that is the end of it, guys, in terms of for the actual video now. If you found today's video helpful, feel free to give it a thumbs up below. Put in the comments any videos you would like me to actually go through as well. That'd be absolutely fundamental because it's a student-led YouTube channel. The subscribe button as well is down below, so if you want access to all of my free content, just hit the button and you get all of my free videos as well, and you can contact me on Instagram for any other things that you would like me to go through. So the final thing now is I can only wish you all the best of luck. I know if you follow this plan, it is going to be so beneficial to you. You're going to be so productive. You're going to go in with the right mindset and you're going to squeeze out every minute possible, even if you're having to work the day before and go into your ACCA exam. But by following these points, you are going to absolutely do it. Okay? Well, as always on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers!